Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day. Happy Wednesday. It is May the 27th, 2020. We are on day 157. And we guys are going to start today reading the book of Judith. We talked about it yesterday. And if you aren't familiar with the book of Judith, if you have an Apocrypha, Judith is in the Apocrypha. And it comes right after the missing chapters in Esther. Let's see. Okay, so I gave y'all overview yesterday about what Judith is about. This should have been canonized like so many other, like all of the Apocrypha, all of it should have been canonized. I mean, who told them they had to canonize a book anyway? But I mean, I get it. I'm grateful that they did because we have the most important books, the Torah, all together, plus what the prophets said. Those are the most important ones, the law and the prophets, because that's what we live by, the law and the prophets, reiterating what Yah spoke to us about the law and how we are to conduct ourselves, right? And everything else is about all those who either obeyed or disobeyed it. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and get started. And remember, Judith doesn't come on the scene until chapter 8. So the first 7 chapters, let's see, we're reading 3. Let's see. So we won't get to Judith 4, 5, 6 until, let's say, Wednesday, Friday. So 1, 2, 3 today, 4, 5, 6 tomorrow, 7, 8, and 9 Friday. The Twabu, Titi, Trina, the Twabu, Sawubona. All right, y'all. So the first 7 chapters is giving you the overview of what's going on, where they're at, and what's going on in Israel and King Nebuchadnezzar. All right, y'all. So bear with me. I'm not sure how many of y'all actually listened to it yesterday or read ahead, but it gets very, very interesting. I have fallen in love with the book of Judith. All right. Chapter 1. In the 12th year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who reigned in Nineveh, the great city, in the days of Arpachshad, which reigned over the Madai in Ecbatane, and built in Ecbatane walls round about the and built in Ecbatane walls round about of stones hewn 3 cubits broad and 6 cubits long, and made the height of the wall 70 cubits, and the breadth thereof 50 cubits. And set the towers thereof upon the gates of it 100 cubits high, and the breadth thereof and the foundation 3 cubits high. And he made the gates thereof, even the gates that were raised to the height of 70 cubits, and the breadth of them was 40 cubits, for the going forth of his mighty armies, and for the setting in array of his footmen. Even in those days King Nebuchadnezzar made war with King Arpachshad in the great plain, which is the plain in the borders of Ru. And there came unto him all that dwell in the hill country, and all that dwell in Perath, and Hikkodale, and Hydaspes, and the plain of Arioch, the king of the Ilmeans, and very many nations of the sons of Chilod assembled themselves to battle. The Nebuchadnezzar, king of Asher, sent unto all that dwelt in Persia, and to all that dwelt westward, and to those that dwelt in Cilicia, and Damascus, and Lebanon, and Antilibanus, and to all that dwelt upon the seacoast, and to those among the nations that were of Carmel, and Gilead, and higher Galilee, and the great plain of Jezreel, and to all that were in Shamaron, and the cities thereof, and beyond the Jordan, and unto Jerusalem, and Betane, and Caleb, and Kadesh, and the river of Mitzrayim, or the river of Egypt, and Tachpenech, and Ramses, and all the land of Goshen, until ye come beyond Tanis and Memphis, and to all the inhabitants of Egypt, until ye come to the borders of Cush. But all the inhabitants of the land made light of the commandment of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Asher, neither went they with him to battle, for they were not afraid of him. Yea, he was before them as one man, and they sent away his ambassadors from without effect and with disgrace. Therefore Nebuchadnezzar was very angry with all this country, and swore by his throne and kingdom that he would surely be avenged upon all those coasts of Cilicia and Damascus and Aram, and that he would slay with the sword all the inhabitants of the land of Moab, and the children of Ammon, and all Yahud, all the regions or the land of Judea, and all that were in Egypt, till ye come to the borders of the two seas. Then he marched in battle array with his power against King Arpachshad in the 17th year, and he prevailed in his battle. And he overthrew all the power of Arpachshad and all his horsemen and all his chariots, and became lord of his cities, and came unto Ebectaim, and took the towers, and spoiled the streets thereof, and turned the beauty thereof into shame. And he took also Arpachshad in the mountains of Ru, and smote him through with his spears, and destroyed him utterly that day. So he returned afterward to Nineveh, both he and all his company of sundry nations, being a very great multitude of men of war. And there he took his ease, and banqueted, both he and his army, 120 days. Betwabu, y'all. All right, y'all, chapter 2 of the book of Judah. Excuse me. And in the 18th year, the 22nd day of the first month, there was talk in the house of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Ashur, that he should, as he said, avenge himself on all the earth. So he called unto him all his officers and all his nobles, and communicated with them his secret counsel, and concluded the afflicting of the whole earth out of his own mouth. Then they decreed to destroy all flesh, that did not obey the commandment of his mouth. Then when he had ended his counsel, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Ashur, called Holofernes, the chief captain of his army, which was next unto him, and said unto him, Thus says the great king, the Lord of the whole earth, Behold, you shall go forth from my presence, and take with you men that trust in their own strength, of footmen 120,000, and the number of horses with their riders 12,000. And you shall go against all the west country, because they disobeyed my commandment. And you shall declare unto them that they prepare for me earth and water, for I will go forth in my wrath against them, and will cover the whole face of the earth with the feet of my army, and I will give them for a spoil unto them, so that their slain shall fill their valleys and brooks, and the river shall be filled with their dead till it overflow. And I will lead them captives to the utmost parts of all the earth. You therefore shall go forth, and take beforehand for me all their coasts. And if they will yield themselves unto you, you shall reserve them for me till the day of their punishment. But concerning them that rebel, let not your eyes spare them, but be put to the slaughter, and spoil them wherever you shall go. Now let me bring out something if y'all don't remember. Remember, shucks, we haven't gotten to it yet with this reading. But remember last reading, I think most of y'all was here. Remember when we got to Jeremiah and we were reading Isaiah and some of the other prophets, he said, the king of Babylon is coming and he's going to take you. He said, those of you who submit to him, you will get to live. But those of you that fight against him are going to die. You're going to be all this stuff. He told them ahead of time. He said, so go submit to the king. Y'all going into captivity. Just go ahead, create families, build homes, all that stuff, because you're going to be there a very, very long time. He said, so submit to him so you can live. But you had the ones, we ain't submit to the king of Babylon. We running, so, and when they ran, they caught them and said, get back here. And they killed most of them that tried to run and that was fighting against them. I think this right here, I'm not going to say this is the same time period, but that is the mind frame of the king. And he told him, he said, listen, those that don't fight against you, go ahead, let them live and reserve them for me until later judgment. But everybody that fight against you, kill them. Kill them till the seas be filled with their bodies, so I just thought about that. Okay. Verse 11, I read again. But no, I'll read 10 again. You shall go forth and take beforehand for me all their coasts, and if they will yield themselves unto you, you shall reserve them for me till the day of their punishment. But concerning them that rebel, let not your eyes spare them, but put them to the slaughter, and spoil them wherever you go. For as I live, and by the power of my kingdom, whatsoever I have spoken, that will I do by my hand. And take heed that you transgress none of the commandments of your Lord, but accomplish them fully, as I have commanded you, and defer not to do them. Then Holofernes went forth from the presence of his Lord, When they say he's Lord, he's talking about Nebuchadnezzar. So, they call their kings Lord, my Lord. And called all the governors and captains and the officers of the army of Asher. And he mustered the chosen men for battle, as his Lord had commanded him, unto 120,000 and 12,000 archers on horseback, and he ranged them as a great army is ordered for the war. And he took camels and asses for their carriages, a very great number, and sheep and oxen and goats without number for their provision, and plenty of victual for every man of the army, and very much gold and silver out of the king's house. Then he went forth in all his power to go before King Nebuchadnezzar in the voyage, and to cover all the face of the earth westward with their chariots and horsemen and their chosen footmen. A great number also, sundry countries came with them like locusts, and like the sand of the earth, for the multitude was without number. And they went forth of Nineveh 3 days' journey toward the plain of Bethlehem, and pitched from Bethlehem near the mountain which is at the left hand of Upper Cilicia. Then he took all his army, his footmen and horsemen and chariots, and went from thence into the hill country, and destroyed Fud and Ludi, and spoiled all the children of Rases and the children of Israel, which were toward the wilderness at the south of the land, and Kilianim. Then he went over Pereth, and went through Aram Naharaim, and destroyed all the high cities that were upon the river Arbonai, till ye come to the sea. And he took the borders of Cilicia, and killed all that resisted him, and came to the borders of Japheth, which were toward the Negev, over against Arab. He compassed also all the children of Midian, and burned up their tabernacles, and spoiled their sheepcotes. Then he went down into the plain of Damascus in the time of the wheat harvest, and burnt up all their fields, and destroyed their flocks and herds. Also he spoiled their cities, and utterly wasted their countries, and smote all their young men with the edge of the sword. Therefore the fear and dread of him fell upon all the inhabitants of the sea coast, which were in Sidon and Sor, and them that dwelt in Ker and Osina, and all that dwelt in Yimnah, and they that dwelt in Ashdod and Ashkelon feared him greatly. All right, y'all, last chapter for the day. It's pretty short. It's only 10 verses. Judah chapter 3. So they sent ambassadors unto him to treat of peace, saying, Behold, we the servants of Nebuchadnezzar the great king lie before you. Use us as shall be good in your sight. Behold, our houses and all our places and all our fields of wheat and our flocks and herds and all the lodges of our tents lie before your face. Use them as it please you. Behold, even our cities and the inhabitants thereof are your servants. Come and deal with them as seem good unto you. So the men came to Holofernes, and declared unto him after this manner. Then came he down toward the sea coast, both he and his army, and set garrisons in the high cities, and took out of them the chosen men for aid. So they and all the country round about received them with garlands, with dances, and with timbrels. Yet he did cast down their frontiers, and cut down their Asherah poles, for he had decreed to destroy all the Elohim of the land, that all nations should worship Nebuchadnezzar only, and that all tongues and tribes should call upon him as Elohim. We know that's a big no-no. Also he came over against Jezreel near unto Judah, over against the great strait of Judah, and he pitched between Jeva and Scythopolis, and there he tarried a whole month, that he might gather together all the carriages of his army. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. Now, anybody that's of Israel know we are only to worship the one and only true living God. We are only to call upon his name, no matter what the churches teach you today, and how they try to combine multiple people into one. That goes against everything that Yahuwah has told us. I'm telling you. And people, when you try to tell people this and they don't know this, because when you get born again or you come into the church, they have you start off in the New Testament. Why start in the New Testament when it starts with Yah? We must start at the beginning. We must start with his instructions. If those of us who would have come into the faith would have started at the beginning, a lot of these false teachings and narratives that have come out of the church would not be able to stand, because we would be full of Yahuwah's laws and instructions, and we would literally be walking Tulas or walking Torahs who carry the commands of Yah because we know them. But most of the church doesn't know them because they start all the way back here. And when you start back here, then you go back and see what Yahuwah says. Now we begin to question Yahuwah, like, nope, it said in back here in the New Testament, and Paul said this. Does Paul trump Yah? Does Matthew trump Yah? Does Luke trump Yah? Does John trump Yah? Anybody back here speaking, do any of them have more authority and final say over Yah? Absolutely not. Not any one of them. So also when you read and things are taken out of context, you won't even be able to catch it. And you're ready to fight to the death for what you done read because you don't understand that a lot of leaven has been added to the loaf. And you're not going to be able to discern truth from error. You're not going to be able to pick up the things that are twisted. So I recommend that you start at the beginning. That's why we're reading this, because most people don't read it. Shucks, they don't even really read the New Testament for real all the way through. But you have to read the words of Yah. So when you read the words of Yah, that's why I pause right here. Y'all know why I pause, because when it said, I read this again. Verse 8, it said, yet he did cast down their frontiers and cut down their Asherah poles, for he had decreed to destroy all the Elohim of the land. Now, he started good. All right. Okay. Love you too. He started good, but what he said in these next verses is what sealed his fate with Yah. He said, He cut down on, well, we know the kings, the prophets, they got in office and they were being righteous and they followed Yah. They did. They cut down the Asherah poles. They should have tore down all the high places, because you can't worship multiple gods and worship Yah at the same altar. He said, I will not have it. It sounded good, but then he said, look, and cut down their Asherah poles, for he had decreed to destroy all the Elohim of the land, that all the nations should worship Nebuchadnezzar only. What? That's why I pause. I'm like, anybody who understands and knows the words and instructions of Yah, know right there, we got a problem, bro, because we're only to worship Yah only, not King Nebuchadnezzar is not a god. Nebuchadnezzar is a man who thinks he's God, but he's a man, so, and like he really did. So this gives a little detail about how vain Nebuchadnezzar was. But guys, the story just gets better and better as we read on. So like I said, if you haven't read ahead, please do read ahead, listen to it. Like I said, I'll post the link for it so you can listen to it. It's an hour long, the whole book together. Listen to it if you want to. If you just want to wait tomorrow to read, you just keep reading the chapters, you can do that too. But remember, we won't start hearing about Judith until chapter 8. So that would be Friday when we get to chapter 8. So today we read Judith 1, 2, and 3. It is day 157. It is Wednesday, May the 27th, 2020. Guys, we're about to be in June in a few days. This year has gone by so fast, yet so slow. All right, y'all, with that being said, let's go ahead and do the blessing. Speaking of that, listen to 2nd Ezra's last night. Ezra wrote 240 books and he had the 70 for the wise. That's 170. Hold on, I'm trying to expand your comment, Tiffany. I always had trouble with it. Okay. Tiffany said, speaking of that, listening to 2nd Ezra's last night, Ezra wrote 240 books and he had 70 for the wise. That's 170 open books. Did we miss something? Are the books combined? Are we not wise yet? Now, I posted something a little while ago. Matter of fact, I will post it down here because I talked about it. Maybe last month I talked about this. But I posted in the comment section, there was a link. Some say it's 70 books, some say it's 70 verses. There is a guy who actually posted it, and it's I think it's like an 8-minute video. I think it was 8 minutes, but he said it was 70 verses. I'm not too sure yet because I haven't done that much research to see if it was 70 verses or 70 books. I'm leaning towards books like Yah said, because what happened was, if you remember the time of Ezra, and when we read through it, First Ezra, Second Ezra, Third Ezra, and Fourth Ezra, and remember, Third Ezra and Fourth Ezra is also called First Esdras and Second Esdras. We read about it, but I'll post those 70. He said I'll post the 70 verses, but I still think I'm not sure what those 70 books are. And like I said, I'm still looking at some stuff. Excuse me, but that was a time where they came in and they had burned up all the Jews, or all of Israel's books and stuff, because we kept record of everything. Nobody keeps notes and records and stuff. I mean, people do, but Israel, the kingdom of Judah, they kept tablets and scrolls. They recorded everything, and a lot of the stuff that they didn't destroy nowadays, things that were rewritten or whatever by the prophets and those in Israel, the Vatican has hold of that stuff and it's hidden in their vault. We know that to be true, and they're not releasing it. Those books belong to us. They belong to Israel. Notice they ain't released them to the people over there. They still got them under lock and key. But those books belong to real Israel. They belong to us. They belong to us, the children of Israel. Yeah, it's books. It's the different letters and the scrolls, like the book of Jeremiah or the book of Isaiah. But during that 40-day period, if you remember when Ezra was fasting, he had, I think it was five scribes that was also there writing. As Yahuwah was giving him, he was rewriting all the books that had been destroyed, and he did that in 40 days. So Yahuwah gave it to him word for word. This is not the first time that happened. That's not far-fetched, because he did the same thing with Moses. When he took him up to Mount Sinai, he gave him the Torah in written form, and it was written out to reintroduce to the people. Same thing. All right. Yeah, because they said 240 books and 70 books. Yep. I'm now curious if we have access to the 170 unhidden. Tiffany, the 170 unhidden, I'm thinking includes what was canonized in the Apocrypha and some of the other ones that they don't include in the Apocrypha but are there, and they say they're not what's the word they use? They're not like authorized, but that's not the word, inspired books. Like, who gave you the authority? These were real prophets who wrote the words of Yah. Yes, it's inspired, so we got to get out of that mindset of listening to what the church fathers said and how they lied to us. You do not have more authority than Yah. These are his prophets. These books, I mean, you can tell, like I said, if you're used to reading the Torah, you can clearly, because there's a lot of books out of there, you can clearly tell those who were written by Israel or the prophets. The style of writing is different, but all those in Israel, it reads the same. The style is the same. It's like the voice is the same, and I'm maybe because I read so much, I'm able to pick that up. So some of the things that I read, some of the books that they have out there, it's like, yeah, I'm not sure. That sounds all right, but that don't read like the books of the prophets. It don't. So I just take it and set it to the side. I may read it all the way through to get the information, just kind of see and weigh it on my scales or whatever. Okay, well, I don't quite know about that. But there was a lot of stuff written. There was a lot of it was a lot of shenaniganized. I like the word shenaniganized books that were written by Josephus and his crew. So it's a lot of stuff that a lot of people trust Josephus. I mean, he was a great historian, but they also wrote a lot of fables. They really did. They wrote a lot of literature, and a lot of it wasn't true. They got some truthful historical facts and stuff, but they also just created stuff. Or they took stuff from, they wrote, let's call them fables. They wrote fables that they took from real historical events, and they changed names around so those who aren't familiar with the stories don't catch on. But I've started catching on to some of this stuff, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is it? This happened over here. This is like the same exact story. So if you're not familiar with the history of Israel, you won't be able to pick that up. And some of this stuff has been added to this. But we ain't gonna get in that. That's another whole video and teaching. But we ain't gonna talk about that. And I don't even know if y'all have enough information where y'all even pick that up. Some of you may, not saying that you don't, but like I do a lot of reading and listening to the different books and going through it and everything, because I'm trying to piece this whole big picture together, or what's going on. And I know a lot of different people, we've been scattered, so it's a lot of pieces of the bigger puzzle that different people have. So I don't discount everybody. I listen to see what they have to say, and if their piece of the puzzle fits, I put it in place until I'm done building my puzzle. I got a lot of pieces. I got a lot of pieces in place in the puzzle, and I have a lot of pieces that's still right off here to the side that I'm going through. Like, wait a minute, let's see. Okay, let's go back to this view. Let's see what it's. Nope. Nope. Let's try it. Oh, it clicks right. Oh, so that's how I'm doing my research and stuff. And it's like, it's a lot. Some people get frustrated. I don't know. I guess I just love this type of stuff. I really do. I don't know. I don't know. I was just made this way. So I don't really have an issue with going through all the information. I do sometimes get information overload, and I just close everything and go to sleep, and I may leave it for a day or two, whatever. But that's enough running my mouth, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing. Don't start. Wait a minute. So beautiful people, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6. Stop it. Verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, I love y'all. I'm going to go ahead and post that stuff in the comment section. It's like two things I said. And I'll see you bright and early in the morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Kids plucking my nerves first thing this morning, y'all.